Hello, and welcome to the first section of Mastering Prezi. This is Module 1, Section 1, Intro to Prezi. In this section, we're going to take a look at what Prezi is and how you can sign up for an account. For starters, what is Prezi? Prezi is a dynamic presentation software that is free to use. You can find it at the URL www.prezi.com. Prezi isn't just a random piece of software you'll find off of the internet. It's actually been featured in TED Talks. It also has a very fast-growing user base, so you can trust its community and the creators. Let's go ahead and get started. If you don't already have an account, it'll redirect you to a page which will allow you to choose your Prezi plan. There's a free plan and 2 paid plans. For this course, we're only going to be requiring the free plan. However, if you choose to upgrade to the paid plans, you will have access to features such as the standalone Prezi application, more storage space, more privacy options, etc. For now, click Continue with Public Presentations, and then start filling out the account information fields. Note that you can also use your LinkedIn and/or Facebook account to automatically generate your account, instead of having to manually enter in your information. So what is Prezi best for? Prezi is best for communicating ideas visually, through simple graphics and animations. However, time and time again, users have found new creative ways to use a Prezi. For example, a user created a Valentine's Day template that one could use as a holiday card. Templates like these are made by the community and can be reused by anyone. Basically, the sky is the limit. This concludes Section 1. In this section, we went over what Prezi is and how to sign up for an account. Next, we'll be comparing Prezi to other presentation programs. Hello, and welcome back to Mastering Prezi. This is Module 1, Section 2, Prezi as compared to other programs. In this section, we're going to take a look at comparing Prezi to other programs, Prezi's mobility, and Prezi on iOS. How does Prezi compare to other presentation programs such as Microsoft PowerPoint? Microsoft PowerPoint is based on slides. On the slides, you can display your content and have multiple slides for different kinds of content. Various visual and motion effects can be applied, however, by default, PowerPoint has none of these enabled. However, Prezi is based on frames. All of the content in a Prezi is on the same plane. Frames are just locations within that plane. As you transition between frames, rather than just jumping to the content, Prezi automatically generates a motion transition between the two because they are locations rather than cards with images and words on them. Another difference is the level of complexity. Programs such as PowerPoint tend to be highly complex, with a lot of features that can be confusing. However, Prezi's interface is designed to be simple and intuitive. Because Prezi is a free program, it doesn't have very many features or options in comparison to other programs such as PowerPoint. Instead, Prezi offers a streamlined design that allows you to quickly create high-quality presentations. Prezi also has a variety of helpful features, such as the ability to present your Prezi over the internet. The use of these tools is relatively simple as well. Going along with this example, all you have to do is copy and paste this link and send it to those who you want to share this presentation with. They will be taken to a view of your presentation where they will see the exact same view you see. Prezi also has a distinct advantage over other presentation programs. Let's say, for example, I need to present a PowerPoint to someone who does not have PowerPoint installed on their device. I would then have to save my PowerPoint as a PowerPoint show, a file format that cannot be edited once it's saved in that format. However, because Prezi is browser-based, I can access it from anywhere, with no installation necessary. You can even view Prezis through mobile devices. Say, for example, this iPod Touch. You can also use the iPad version to create quick on-the-fly presentations. This concludes Section 2. In this section, we compared Prezi to other presentation programs. Next, we'll be taking a look at the Prezi workspace and how to create your first Prezi. Hello, and welcome back to Mastering Prezi. This is Module 2, Section 1, Exploring the Prezi workspace. In this section, we're going to take a look at the Prezi workspace and Prezi's essential tools. When you log into your Prezi account, by default it will send you to the My Prezis tab. Let's go ahead and start by creating a new Prezi. Whenever you create a new Prezi, it'll ask you to choose a template to use for your Prezi. For now, let's start with a blank Prezi. We'll be covering templates further in depth in the later section. This is the Prezi workspace. Up top is the main toolbar. Off to the left is the Paths panel, and on the right are the zoom options. In the center is, of course, the contents of your Prezi. Let's first start by taking a look at the main toolbar. In the upper left-hand corner, it will display the title of your Prezi. The three buttons off to the right of that allow you to undo and redo your last action, as well as manually save your Prezi. While Prezi does autosave your work at regular intervals, it is still highly recommended to manually save your work before you close it out. Next, we have the Insert and Customize buttons. These will probably be used the most in the course of creating your presentation. The Insert menu allows you to insert a variety of content into your presentation, such as symbols and shapes, images, videos, etc. The Customize option allows you to edit the theme of your presentation, things such as the background color, font type. It even allows you to access the theme wizard, which we'll be covering in a later module. Clicking the Present button will change the workspace into presentation mode. The Share menu gives you a bunch of quick actions you can take to start sharing your presentation. And finally, the gear icon allows you to tweak some minute settings of your presentation, such as changing the screen aspect ratio of your presentation and enabling or disabling keyboard shortcuts. This concludes Section 1. In this section, we explored the Prezi workspace and took a look at some of Prezi's essential tools. Next, we'll be taking a look at Frames and the Transformation tool. Hello, and welcome back to Mastering Prezi. This is Module 2, Section 2, Frames, Text, and Transformation. In this section, we're going to take a look at inserting frames, adding text, and the Transformation tool. Now that we've made our first Prezi, we're going to need to start setting it up. To do this, let's first start by adding frames. What are frames? Frames are containers for your content. All of the content in your Prezi is on the same plane, so to speak. Frames are just locations within that plane. To add a frame, start by hovering over the box in the upper left-hand corner that shows an image of a frame and a blue plus arrow. Then click it and drag it and drop on the area that you want to insert the frame in. By default, Prezi will insert a circle frame into your Prezi. If you wish to change the style of frame that you insert into your Prezi, click on the box underneath the Insert Frame button and select the style of frame you wish to insert. There are 4 styles of frame that you can choose from: bracket, circle, rectangle, and invisible frames. The only difference between the styles of frames is how they appear in your presentation. One interesting thing to note about invisible frames is that while they do have a gray outline to indicate their location in editing mode, if you go to presentation mode, like their name suggests, they are completely invisible. Now that we have frames in our Prezi, let's start filling it with content. More specifically, let's start by adding some text. Click on the text box labeled Click to Add Text. I'm going to, as an example, start making a title frame for a presentation on pizza. However, once I add my second sentence, I'm out of text boxes. What do I do in this situation? In order to insert more text into your presentation, all you have to do is click on an empty area. The text tool will pop up as if you clicked a text box in that area. Please note that sometimes this won't work because you're actually clicking on an object. For example, if you're zoomed out too much, you might wind up clicking on a frame instead of an empty area where you can place text in. The text tool also allows you to format the text you insert into a presentation. For example, you can increase or decrease the font, make it a part of a numbered or bulleted list, add bold or italic styles to the text, add or remove an indent, etc., etc. Now let's say I put in a new frame, but it's wound up in a place I don't quite want it to be in. What should I do in this case? In this case, it's best to use the transformation tool. All I have to do is select the frame, and the transformation tool will pop up. Like the text tool, the transformation tool is hidden from plain sight, but it's probably one of the tools you'll wind up using the most. Here's what it can do. If you click the hand icon, you can drag an object to move it. If you click the plus and minus icons, it'll grow or shrink your object. If you click Zoom to Frame or Zoom to Object, it'll move your field of view so that the object fills your entire view. Depending on the type of object, you can also edit its style, as well as delete the object from within the transformation tool. If you click and drag one of the boxes in the corner, it'll allow you to resize the object like you're using the plus or minus arrows, but in a more precise manner. And finally, you can rotate the object by hovering over one of the resize boxes and then clicking on the handle that appears. If you drag this handle, it'll rotate the object accordingly. There are a few other functions of the text and transformation tools that we'll be going over in a later module. This concludes section 2. In this section, we took a look at frames, text, and transformation. Next, we'll be taking a look at the basics of path points. Hello, and welcome back to Mastering Prezi. This is Module 2, Section 3, Path Point Basics. In this section, we're going to take a look at path points. Earlier in this module, when we inserted frames, you may have noticed that the new frames were added to this panel on the left. You might recall that I referred to this panel as the Paths panel. This is because all new frames are automatically assigned a new path point and are added to the end of your path. Before I elaborate on this, however, let's backtrack a bit. What is a path? Path is the order that you present your content in. Think of it as the path that your viewer takes through your presentation. That's where it gets its name from. You can tell if an object has a path point if it has a gray circle with a number next to it. That number signifies what order in the path it's in. However, path points are not limited to just frames. They can be added to any object. If you wish to add a path point to an object, click Edit Path and then click on the object you wish to assign the path point to. However, if you want to remove a path point from an object, let's say you accidentally added an extraneous one in, all you have to do is click Edit Path and then click the red X that appears when you hover over the path point in the Path panel. There are a few other things you can do with a path, however, we'll be covering that in a later module. Note that you can also collapse a path panel using this tab. It is useful for getting a bigger view of your Prezi. To reopen the panel, just click it again. This concludes Section 3. In this section, we went over the basics of path points. Next, we'll be applying what we've learned in this module. Hello, and welcome back to Mastering Prezi. This is Module 2, Section 4, Application of the Prezi Workspace. In this section, we're going to be applying what we've learned in this module. Let's begin by starting a new Prezi. To apply what we've learned, we're going to start making a Prezi from scratch. We'll begin constructing our Prezi by adding a title to the title frame. I'm going to go ahead and use the pre-made text field, but remember, you can always click an empty area to start using the text tool. In my example, I'm going to start making a Prezi about my favorite books. Now I'm going to start filling the frame with a bulleted list of my favorite books. Now let's start inserting some frames into the presentation. Remember, go to the box in the upper left, click and drag to the location where you want the frame to be. Now let's start using the transformation tool to tweak the size and positioning of our frames. In this case, I want the second frame to be quite large, and then each one after it to be sequentially smaller. Then I'm going to reposition the frames so that the path hops from frame to frame rather than going all over the place. Be careful when transforming frames, however, because when you select a frame, anything inside of it will be moved as well. This is very helpful when moving frames with actual content inside, but for now it might get in your way. Finally, I'm going to change the style of the title frame from a circle frame to a bracket frame to keep the presentation consistent. This concludes Section 4. In this section, we applied what we learned in this module. Next, we'll be taking a look at themes and templates. Hello, and welcome back to Mastering Prezi. This is Module 3, Section 1, Themes and Templates. In this section, we're going to have a brief overview of themes and take a quick look at templates. Whenever you create a new Prezi, it'll always ask you which template you want to use. A template can range anywhere from prearrangement of frames to a full presentation with blank text fields and blank picture fields. Note that you can only choose your template when you first create your Prezi, so it is advised that you choose your template well, as reverting the changes that a template makes may take a very long time. By default, it'll show the newest templates that have been released on the left, and the popular templates on the right. If you need more options, try browsing in the More tab, or you can try searching for a template using the search bar. So for example, I could try searching for a Halloween template and see if anybody has made a Halloween themed template. And of course, you can always just start with a blank Prezi. However, using a template can save you a lot of time and effort. So as an example, I'm going to use this discovery template. When you first load a new template in Prezi, it'll typically load in things such as pre-made images, a background image, and some frames to put your content in. Of course, you can always modify any part of the template as you see fit. So let's say, for example, I need more circle frames to display my content. I could go ahead and start adding those in now. The best part about a Prezi template is that nothing about it is rigid or set in stone. You can change any part of it at any time. Now that we've modified our template, let's take a look at its theme. What is a theme? A theme is a collection of the fonts, styles, and colors used in your Prezi. To customize your theme, click the Customize button, and it'll bring up a panel on the right, which allows you to edit certain elements of the theme. From here, you can change the background image and also choose from pre-made themes. So for example, if I click the space theme, it'll change all of the fonts and colors accordingly. There are a wide variety of preset themes you can use, so don't be afraid to try them out. If you want to customize your theme further, start by clicking the Advanced button. By default, it'll send you to the Advanced Theme Wizard. Let's go with the basic theme wizard for now. From here, you can do things such as changing the background color, uploading a 3D background, which we'll be covering more in a later module, add a custom logo if your plan allows for it, change the fonts and colors used by the 3 styles of text in your Prezi, and change the colors used by your major types of frames, your lines and arrows, and the highlighter tool. Don't worry about the Advanced Theme Wizard for now. We'll be covering that next section. This concludes Section 1. In this section we went over themes and templates. Next, we'll be taking a look at the Advanced Theme Wizard and its features. Hello and welcome back to Mastering Prezi. This is Module 3, Section 2, Advanced Theme Wizard Features. In this section, we're going to take a look at the Advanced Theme Wizard and its features, such as the ability to add in 3D backgrounds. We're also going to look at editing the CSS of a Prezi. So last time we took a look at the normal theme wizard and what it can do to customize your theme. This time, let's take a look at the Advanced Theme Wizard and its capabilities. Remember, go to Customize and Advanced. This is the Advanced Theme Wizard. As you can see, it has all the features of the normal theme wizard, but it also has much more precise options. Let's take the colors for example. When you click on a color, as you can notice, a color palette doesn't come up. Instead, you're required to enter in an RGB value. This is really useful in case there's a specific shade of a color you need to use. Say for example, company colors. Like the normal theme wizard, you can edit the font type as well. Now let's take a look at 3D backgrounds. A 3D background is a series of 3 images that react to zooming in and out of a presentation. It acts like a flat image when you zoom in and out, and it doesn't change either. However, with a 3D background, it changes as you zoom in and out. So as an example, I have here a presentation I made on the Akita Prefecture in Japan. When I zoom in, you can see that the background has changed to a closer-up map of the local region, as opposed to this larger map of the entire Japanese nation. Click the Edit button and start uploading your images. Keep in mind that the order that you upload these in will affect how they appear in your Prezi. Start by uploading the top layer, that is, the layer you see when you're zoomed out the most. In this case, I'm going to use images of galaxies taken by the Hubble Space Telescope. Thankfully, if you upload them in the wrong order, you can always click a layer to replace it. And of course, you can get rid of a layer by clicking the red X. Now, as you can see, the image in the background has changed to the picture of the galaxy, and when I zoom in, it changes to different pictures of the galaxy. Another feature only found in the Advanced Theme Wizard is the Prezi CSS editor. To access the CSS editor, just click the Use the CSS editor link in the bottom of the Advanced Theme Wizard. The Edit CSS console will then pop up. If you accidentally delete too much of the code in here, don't worry. All you have to do is close it and reopen it in order to refresh the code. Please note that if you aren't familiar with CSS code, you may not be able to fully take advantage of this feature. To demonstrate the capabilities of the CSS editor, I'm going to edit the properties of a bracket frame. I'm going to change the thickness of the bracket frame from 9 to 19. When I click Apply, you can clearly see that the bracket frame's lines have become much thicker, but the size of the frame remains the same. Let's try a thinner value, such as 4. As you can see, the CSS editor can allow you to tweak your theme in very subtle ways. Feel free to play around with the CSS editor. This concludes Section 2. In this section, we went over advanced theme wizard features, such as 3D backgrounds and the CSS editor. Next, we'll be taking a look at reusable Prezis. Hello, and welcome back to Mastering Prezi. This is Module 3, Section 3, Reusable Prezis. In this section, we're going to take a look at Prezis that you can use as your own. By default, all Prezis saved on the website are set to public and reusable. A reusable Prezi is a Prezi that anyone can make a copy of and edit for their own purposes. As you can see, the sample Prezi I made last section has a little recycling icon next to it. This icon means that this Prezi is reusable. Reusable Prezis are a great way to find new ideas for Prezi formats, and also great ways to find templates. To find a reusable Prezi, click the Explore tab. When you search for a Prezi, click Show Reusable Prezis Only. So, for example, I'm going to search for a template about chess. As you can see, this presentation already has a custom theme, and has a background, and already has content. Since it's reusable, I can simply click Make a Copy. When I go back to the Your Prezis tab, a copy should be present there. Now you can see that the reusable Prezi has been saved as a copy to my Prezis, and that I can edit it as if it were my own Prezi. This concludes Section 3. In this section, we took a look at reusable Prezis and how you can use them to find new templates and ideas. Next, we'll be applying what we've learned in this section. Hello, and welcome back to Mastering Prezi. This is Module 3, Section 4, Application of the Theme Wizard. In this section, we're going to be applying what we've learned in this module. Now that we have the basic My Favorite Books Prezi set up, let's start customizing it. Start by clicking the Customize tab. I'm going to scroll through the pre-made themes and see if there's any that fit the theme of books. Be sure to know what you have in mind before you start trying themes. In this case, I'm going for a library sort of look. After trying some of the other themes, I'm going to stick with the coffee theme. However, I think there's a few things that could be tweaked. Let's go ahead and go into the theme wizard to change that. Since I don't have any specific colors in mind, I'll go ahead and use the basic theme wizard for now. I'm going to go ahead and change the style of the circle frame to something more brown, and the style of the bracket and rectangle frames to be something a little bit lighter that goes with the brown. I'm also going to change the color of the highlighter to orange. Now let's add a background image. Remember, you can do this by either clicking 3D background and only uploading one layer, or you can also just use the Customize Panels option. Remember, you can always tweak your theme at any time. In this case, I've noticed that the brown frames tend to blend in with the background too well. I'm also going to change the text to make it so that it's more visible. This background is still preventing me from seeing the text very well, despite changing to a high visibility color. To solve this, I'm going to create a 3D background effect so that it changes to a different image when I actually need to zoom in on the text. Now when I zoom in on the text, it'll transition to an image of an open blank book. Once again, you may have to tweak your theme in order to accommodate these changes. Now let's say I want to make the bracket frames a little thicker in my presentation. Let's change that using the CSS editor. Go ahead and scroll down until you see the frame.bracket section of code. Then change the border thickness value from 0 to 5. Sometimes it may not seem like it has much effect, so don't be afraid to use larger numbers, such as 15. Now you can clearly see that the thickness of the border of the bracket frames is much thicker than it used to be. Feel free to tweak the presentation in any way you feel is appropriate. This concludes section 4. In this section we applied what we learned in this module. Next, we'll be taking a look at adding content to our Prezi. Hello, and welcome back to Mastering Prezi. This is Module 4, Section 1, Adding Images to a Prezi. In this section, we're going to take a look at inserting images from both an external file and Google Images into your Prezi. Adding visuals to your Prezi is very important if you want it to be visually engaging. One of the easiest ways to do this is to insert image files. To add an image, click the Insert menu and then click Image. It'll bring up the Insert Image menu. There are two main options that are presented to you through the Insert Image menu. Click Select Files and then navigate to the image on your hard drive that you want to insert in your Prezi. For example, this image of a kitten I have on my hard drive. It'll upload it into your Prezi and then insert it. Please note that once you've uploaded the image into your Prezi, you don't need to use the same computer to view this image. Unlike in programs like PowerPoint, which require the source files as well as the presentation in order to view the image files. The next method is to search for images using Google Images. All you have to do for this is type what you want to search for in the search bar. In fact, you're not limited to just Google Images. It'll also be able to pull things from all sources. You can change this, however, to just Google Images results by clicking on the little globe icon. You also have the option to show only images licensed for commercial use. So let's say you're using this Prezi for a company. Since you'll be using it for commercial use, once you activate this feature, you can rest easy knowing that all images that show up will be safe for commercial use. You run little to no risk of running into copyright issues. Let's go ahead and search for some more images of cats, or whatever type of image you need. Once it pulls up the results, find the one you want, click and drag, and it'll insert it into your Prezi. This concludes section 1. In this section, we went over how to insert images into a Prezi. Next, we'll be taking a look at adding graphical icons to your Prezi. Hello, and welcome back to Mastering Prezi. This is Module 4, Section 2, Inserting Graphic Icons. In this section, we're going to take a look at adding graphic icons to your Prezi. Now that we begin to add more content to our Prezi, let's explore some of the other options Prezi has. In the Insert menu, quite a few of the options are devoted to inserting symbols, shapes, and other graphic icons. Let's first start with the Symbols and Shapes option. When you click on it, it'll pull up a Styles submenu. Here's where you'll choose the style of shape that you wish to insert. Since I'm doing a sample presentation on cats, I'll go with the cute style. Now Prezi will show you all of the symbols with that style. Go ahead and scroll through the list, and when you found one you want to insert, click and drag like you would an image. Prezi has a lot of shapes and symbols that you can use, so be sure to take advantage of them. Next, let's take a look at adding lines and arrows. Go ahead and click Insert, and click Arrow. When drawing an arrow, first click the point where you want to be the end of the arrow, and then click the point where you want it to be pointing at. Once you've drawn an arrow, there are a few things you can do with it. You can click either one of the endpoints to change which direction it's going, or the location of the endpoints. Clicking the point in the middle will allow you to apply a curve, and clicking Style will allow you to change the color, and you can also increase or decrease the thickness of the arrow or line. Please note that the arrow and line tools are basically identical in how they operate, the only main difference being, of course, one draws a line and one draws an arrow. Finally, let's take a look at the highlighter tool. The highlighter tool acts very much like a real-life highlighter. Clicking and dragging it over an area on your Prezi applies a highlighter effect. This highlighter effect can be moved around like a normal object. So it can be resized, rotated, etc. One of the possible uses of the highlighter tool is to use it to make hand drawings, such as... Feel free to play around with these tools, as they can be used to add a lot of personality to your Prezi. This concludes section 2. In this section, we took a look at inserting graphic icons into your Prezi. Next, we'll be taking a look at inserting external media. Hello, and welcome back to Mastering Prezi. This is Module 4, Section 3, Inserting External Media. In this section, we're going to take a look at adding external files such as PDFs and Flash files, embedding YouTube videos, and importing PowerPoint slides. Let's say you need to add a large amount of information to your Prezi very quickly and have it all in an external file, but you don't have time to insert it all manually. What should you do? One feature that you could take advantage of is the ability to insert a wide range of external file types. To add an external file, go to Insert from File. Let's say I need to insert a PDF document. Once Prezi is done processing it, it'll add it into your presentation as an image. Well, you can insert video files into your Prezi using the Insert from File method. Another method that would save you storage space is to upload it onto YouTube and embed that video into your Prezi. This can also be useful if you find a video relevant to your presentation on YouTube. You can embed it into your presentation instead of having to pull out of the presentation to show the YouTube video. To embed a YouTube video into your Prezi, start by locating it on the YouTube website. Once you've found the video you want to add to your Prezi, copy the link to it. You can do this by either copying it from the address bar or clicking Share and copying the link that pops up there. Then go to Insert YouTube Video and paste the link into the dialog that pops up. Prezi does the rest of the work for you. It'll add a YouTube player object, which you can manipulate like any other object. However, unlike a normal object, you can also hover over it and then click the play button to start viewing the YouTube video. Prezi also supports the ability to convert existing PowerPoint slides into Prezi frames. When you insert a PowerPoint it'll pull up a special contextual menu on the right. Once it's done converting the PowerPoint into Prezi frames, it'll display a preview of the converted PowerPoint slides on the right. You can drag and drop the slides individually, or you can click Insert All to add them all to your presentation. When you click Insert All, it also gives you the option to prearrange the converted frames into a template. There are 10 different templates that you can select. In addition, you can also have it automatically assign all of the converted frames path points. Once you're done, click Insert, and it will insert all of the converted frames as a single object. Go ahead and experiment with how Prezi handles different file types. If you're ever unsure as to whether Prezi supports the file type you wish to add, you can find the full list of supported file types when you go to Learn and Support, and then click Manual/FAQ, then go to the Troubleshooting section and click Supported File Types. This concludes Section 3. In this section, we went over how to add external media to your presentation, such as PDFs and PowerPoint slides. Next, we'll be taking a look at adding background music and voiceovers to your presentation. Hello, and welcome back to Mastering Prezi. This is Module 4, Section 4, Adding Audio to a Prezi. In this section, we'll be going over how to add voiceovers and background music to your Prezi. A Prezi doesn't have to be purely visual. You can also add audio effects to your Prezi in addition to all of the visuals. Let's first start by adding background music. Click Insert and then Add Background Music. Navigate to the audio file that you want to play in the background of your Prezi and then insert it. Once it's done uploading into your Prezi, it'll give you the option to remove it or preview it. Now you can see on the left-hand side, music bar will appear with the name of the song you uploaded. A song that you use as the background music for your Prezi will play in the background and loop indefinitely. So the best type of music to use for your Prezi is music that is mixed to be able to loop well. Now let's go ahead and add a voiceover. The first thing you'll need to do is to select a path point from the panel on the left. Then click Insert and hit Add Voiceover to Path Step, and then whichever number it is. And then attach an audio file. Like the background music, audio bar will appear on the preview of the path point. How voiceovers work in Prezi is basically every time a user visits this path point, this particular path point, it'll play the voiceover. This is good for creating presentations that do not require a presenter in order to view. So for example, if you're, say, a teacher and you want to give an online assignment, you can have a presentation that explains the assignment step by step with voiceovers. And that way, unlike, say, an instructional video, someone viewing it could view the presentation at their own pace while still receiving all of the information through voiceovers. There are a lot of different uses for background music and voiceovers in Prezis, and I would highly encourage you to view other Prezis and see how community members have taken advantage of these features to get an idea of how you can use them in your Prezis. This concludes Section 4. In this section, we went over how to add in background music and voiceovers. Next, we'll be applying what we've learned in this module. Hello, and welcome back to Mastering Prezi. This is Module 4, Section 5, Application of Media Insertion. In this section, we're going to be applying what we've learned in this module. So, now that we have the My Favorite Books presentation and the basic skeleton set up, let's go ahead and start adding in media to make it more interesting. Let's first start with some images. In this case, let's start with a Google image search. So, for example, let's search for images of books. Go ahead and add in as many images as you feel are necessary. But remember, try not to clutter up your presentation with too many visuals. Always abide by the KISS rule. That is, keep it simple, silly. I'm also going to choose a few images from my files. Now let's say I'm making a frame about my favorite Shakespeare plays and want to change things up with a YouTube video. Let's go ahead and add a YouTube video that is relevant. I'm going to go ahead and grab this link from YouTube. Okay. And then paste it into my Prezi. In fact, I think I'll also go ahead and use part of a PowerPoint that is also relevant to this. I also have a presentation I made in PowerPoint about Shakespeare, and I feel that it would save me some time if I simply put it into Prezi. If you have a similar situation, let's go ahead and import the PowerPoint presentation. Now, since this presentation is only one slide long, I'm just going to go ahead and drag and drop this slide into my presentation. However, don't forget that if you have multiple slides, you can click Insert All to have Prezi automatically format all of the slides into a predetermined layout for you. Now I'm going to go ahead and add some icons, such as arrows and graphical symbols, to add to the visual appeal of this presentation. Start with some arrows. In this case, I'm going to use them to indicate which direction the Prezis follow the frames. Next, I'm going to go back to my title slide and add a graphic symbol. Once again, only one or two should suffice. Adhering to the KISS rule will ensure that your presentation doesn't feel too cluttered. Now let's highlight important text for emphasis. Last but not least, let's add some audio to this sample presentation. I'll start by adding in background music. Once again, go to Insert, Add Background Music, select the file, and once it's finished uploading, click Done to complete. I'm also going to add a voiceover to this path point. Adding a voiceover may not always be necessary, but in this case, because this Prezi is better suited to be shown without a presenter, it'll greatly enhance its capability to convey information. Now let's quickly take a look at the effect that the background music and the voiceover has on the Prezi. Some of my favorite books in the world is found. As you may have heard, Prezi automatically lowers the volume of the background music whenever a voiceover is played. However, audio levels are still an important thing to consider when adding voiceovers. Always double check to make sure that you can hear your voiceovers over your background music, otherwise you will get a result like in the sample Prezi where you couldn't hear my voiceover over the background music. This concludes section 5. In this section we applied what we learned in Module 4. Next, we'll be taking a look at frame layouts and Prezi paths. Hello and welcome back to Mastering Prezi. This is Module 5, Section 1, Layouts and Path Points. In this section we're going to take a look at prefabricated frame layouts, and assigning path points to objects that are not frames. In Module 2, we began to set up a presentation by inserting new frames. However, sometimes filling these frames can take a considerable amount of time. Taking advantage of Prezi's layout feature can help reduce the amount of time needed to construct a new Prezi. To view available layouts, click Insert Layouts. Layouts can be one frame with placeholder content in it, or multiple frames set up to accommodate almost any kind of content. Whenever you insert a new layout, it'll automatically assign it a path point, similar to how new frames are assigned new path points. These layouts are filled with areas to insert text, or sometimes they are also filled with areas you can place images in. All you have to do to replace one of the placeholder images is to click on it and click Replace. It'll then allow you to insert an image from Google Images or from a file, as if you're inserting a new image. Multi-frame layouts are useful when you have a lot of content that cannot fit on a single frame. There are a wide range of multi-frame layouts you can use, from multiple frames in a row to a layout that could be used for an entire presentation to something as simple as a Venn diagram. Be sure to take advantage of these when creating new Prezis to speed up the process of making your Prezi. It has been noted before, whenever you insert a new frame or layout, it always comes with its own pre-assigned path points. However, what if you want to focus on something that's not in a frame? Like, for example, this image of a ship. You can assign it a path point by clicking Edit Path and then clicking on that object. Another alternative method is useful for assigning a path point to an object between two currently existing path points. Let's say, for example, between 10 and 11, I want my presentation to focus on the compass rose of this presentation. I could always add a path point and then reorder it. However, one quick little shortcut that I could use is to click the white plus arrow on the path between 10 and 11 and then drag it onto the compass rose. What if there's a part of our presentation that we want to focus on, or a particular view of our Prezi that we want to show, however there's no object that covers the entire view appropriately? That is where the Add Current View feature comes in handy. Instead of having to create an invisible frame and then manually resize it until it covers everything you want it to, all you have to do is zoom to that view and then click Add Current View. It'll automatically draw an invisible frame over all the contents you're viewing and add it to the path. As you can see, there are a lot of shortcuts to help you create your presentation quickly and efficiently. This concludes Section 1. In this section, we went over layouts and path points. Next, we'll be taking a look at adding an animation effect to objects with a path point assigned to it. Hello, and welcome back to Mastering Prezi. This is Module 5, Section 2, Animation. In this section, we're going to take a look at Prezi's animation effect and how you can apply this to your Prezi. Animation in Prezi is something that I've mentioned in earlier modules but haven't fully covered. Currently, Prezi only has one animation effect, a simple fade-in effect. However, despite this limitation, it's still quite versatile. For example, in this presentation I made on drug awareness, I used the fade-in effect to turn this happy boy into a sad one. Adding the fade-in effect to objects in your presentation is relatively easy. Once in Edit Path mode, Click on the little star of the path point that contains the objects you wish to animate. Then, click on the objects in the order you want them to appear. So for example, I want this image of the dog to appear before this image of the little person. Once you're done, clicking the play button will allow you to preview how the animations will play out. You can always delete an animation you don't like by hovering over the green star and clicking the X, or by hitting the reset button to clear all animation within that frame. This concludes section 2. In this section, we went over animation and how to apply it to objects within your Prezi. Next, we'll be taking a look at zooming techniques. Hello, and welcome back to Mastering Prezi. This is Module 5, Section 3, Paths and Zooming. In this section, we're going to take a look at how to make your presentation more visually engaging by taking advantage of how Prezi zooms between path points. One effective technique in Prezi is to integrate your content into the nooks and crannies of your presentation, or kind of hide it in the scenery, so to speak. To demonstrate this, I'm going to use this technique on a sample presentation about chemistry. I've set up this presentation so that the circle frames that will be containing my text content look like bubbles coming out of the beaker with the purple fluid in it. This technique can really help retain your viewer's attention by breaking the norm. It really adds a whole nother meaning to diving straight into the content. Not only does it engage your audience, but it also adds a lot more depth to your presentation. Another strategy is to stick text within text. For example, I'll have this presentation zoom in on the hole within the E and add the definition of chemistry inside of it. Now, when I go into presentation mode, it'll go from the title slide and then zoom into the hole within the E. Strategies such as these really emphasize the movement of a presentation. Of course, you can also go the opposite direction. You could zoom out and place something there instead. As an example, I'm going to add a call to action at the end of my presentation. A call to action is something that encourages somebody to take some form of action. In this case, I'm going to say, study chemistry now. Then I'm going to take this text, enlarge it, and hide the entire presentation inside of the O of the message. At first, when viewers see the presentation, they will see the O, but it will only look like a piece of the background. However, when the presentation's over, it'll zoom out to give the overarching message of study chemistry now. Making a call to action more memorable makes it much more likely that someone will actually follow through with it. Don't be afraid to experiment with this technique. Another thing that you could do is also rotate the object that you're zooming to, so that when you view the final message, not only does it zoom out, but it also subtly rotates the camera to further add the sense of motion. Just be careful, however, you don't want to overuse this technique, especially if members of your audience are prone to motion sickness. This concludes section 3. In this section, we went over how to take advantage of how Prezi moves between frames to add more visual depth and dynamics to your presentation. Next, we'll be applying what we've learned in this module. Hello, and welcome back to Mastering Prezi. This is Module 6, Section 1, Managing Prezis. In this section, we're going to take a look at managing your Prezis, how to organize them, edit metadata, and even use an existing Prezi as a template. If neglected for too long, your Prezi collection can become quite disorganized and really hard to sort through, even with a search feature. Thankfully, Prezi has some tools that allow you to organize your presentations and allow you to keep track of them. Much like a file browser, Prezi allows you to create folders. To add one, all you have to do is click New Folder. Now, type in a name. Once you're done, click Rename. You can create a new Prezi right from within this folder, and it will be automatically assigned to this folder. You can also assign existing Prezis to your new folder. All you have to do is hover over it, click the folder icon, and click on the folder you want to add it to. A Prezi can be added to as many folders as you deem necessary. Now, you may notice that if you hover over a presentation that's in a folder, in the lower right, it will display the folders that the Prezi is located in. One interesting feature of folders is the ability to add viewers. If you type in a person's email to this list, they will be able to view all of the presentations within the folder. Of course, if you're using the free package like I am, all of your presentations will be public, so it's not like they won't be able to see them anyway. But if you do have a package that allows you to make private presentations, this could be useful for adding a group of people to be able to view some private presentations. Even if your Prezis are public, it's still a convenient way to group together a bunch of your presentations and then send them the link to the folder for easy viewing. If you ever need to rename your folder, just hover over the name and then click on it. Sometimes when you create a presentation, it'll only be called Untitled Prezi and have no description. How do we change this? All you have to do is go to the View page and edit the title and description like you would a folder name. Once again, just click on the Prezi title or description and type in what you feel is necessary. A little earlier I mentioned private versus public presentations. How do you change the privacy settings of a Prezi? You can change this from a variety of locations, the most noticeable of which is the View page. If you click on the button that states its privacy setting, it'll bring up the Share menu, which also allows you to change the privacy settings. Even if you only have the free package, you can always toggle off allowing public reuse. Let's say you have a Prezi that has a custom template, and you don't want to have to recreate it every time you want to use that specific look. What could you do? What you could do is create a blank presentation that has all of the elements that you want in a base template, and then continually make copies of it. On the View page, you can save a copy of your presentation, much like a public reusable Prezi. Then you can edit that copy and add in whatever you want. This effectively allows you to use one base Prezi as a template. Hopefully this section has allowed you to organize your Prezis in a way that makes them easy to find or a lot more convenient to view. This concludes section 1. In this section, we went over managing Prezis. Next, we'll be taking a look at adding editors to a Prezi, how to edit your Prezi as a group in real time. Hello and welcome back to Mastering Prezi. This is Module 6, Section 2, Adding Prezi Editors. In this video, we're going to take a look at giving people permission to edit your Prezi so that you and others can work on your Prezi together in real time. Working on a Prezi is a lot like working on a Google document. It's all stored in the cloud, and any changes that you make to it are immediate. One thing that you can do is give people editing permissions to your Prezi. To do this, click the Share icon, and then click Share Prezi. To add someone as an editor to your Prezi, under Add People, type in their email address. Once you're done, click Add. It'll send them an email that contains a link. If they click on that link, they will be able to edit your Prezi. Once they've logged into their Prezi account, and you're both online at the same time, you'll notice that an icon representing them will appear in your Prezi. If you open the sidebar, it'll give you a full list of everyone in the Prezi with their names expanded. If you click on somebody else, You can click Zoom to Position to zoom to their current view, and open their profile. You can also start a presentation over the internet from this sidebar. However, you don't have to worry about that because we'll be covering it in the later section. Whenever somebody who's working on your presentation moves throughout your Prezi, their icon will follow. Let's say, for example, that one dude moves to path point number 4. As you can see, his icon has now moved to path point 4. If we click Zoom to Position, we can zoom in and see exactly what he's seeing. Likewise, anybody else who's editing the Prezi can do the same. This is really useful if a teammate is having an issue with a certain part of your presentation. You can just zoom to their position to take a look for yourself. Finally, let's take a look at how Prezi handles changes in real time. Let's have that one dude start adding some text. This entire time he's been adding text, but it hasn't shown up yet. However, once he's done, the change is synced across all versions of the Prezi. This is especially useful for group projects, because unlike a program like PowerPoint where you might have multiple different versions due to group members making various different changes, Prezi syncs all of the changes at once, so unnecessary duplicates are not created. It saves you a lot of hassle because there are never any conflicting changes. This concludes section 2. In this section, we took a look at editing a Prezi as a group in real time. Next, we'll be taking a look at Prezi accessibility, ways you can make your presentation more accessible to others. Hello, and welcome back to Mastering Prezi. This is Module 6, Section 3, Prezi Accessibility. In this Prezi, we're going to take a look at making your Prezi more accessible through Prezi transcripts and PDFs. Let's say, as an example, you would do significantly better with subtitles. Perhaps you're in an auditorium where your voice doesn't carry very well, even with loudspeakers. Perhaps you're presenting to a group of people who are hard of hearing or maybe even deaf. What could you do? One thing that you could do is make subtitles, but that's a time-consuming process. However, making subtitles in Prezi is made a little bit easier by taking advantage of the Prezi transcript. If you go to the Prezi view page and scroll to the bottom, it'll give you a transcript of the presentation. If you click on Show Full Transcript, it'll give you all the pieces of text in the presentation in the order that they're presented in. This could significantly speed the process of creating subtitles. You can even use these to make an outline in case you need to make notes or a pamphlet summarizing the presentation. Going along with the handout idea, Prezi has the ability to make handouts of your presentation by saving your presentation as a PDF. In order to download your Prezi as a PDF, in the Edit view, click Share and Download as a PDF. It'll convert every view of your presentation into a page of a PDF. Once that's done, click Save PDF. Navigate where you want to save it. Give it a name, and save. The PDF file will always begin with a view of your presentation that covers all of the content. It will then display every path point as if you're viewing it from the computer. There are a few ways you could use this, one of which is creating a second Prezi that is specifically made, handing that out alongside your main presentation. Quite frankly, if you're creative enough, the sky is the limit. This concludes Section 3. In this section, we went over how to make your presentation more accessible through the use of the Prezi transcript and PDF features. Next, we'll be applying what we've learned in this module. Hello and welcome back to Mastering Prezi. This is Module 6, Section 4, Application of Prezi Management. In this section, we're going to be applying what we've learned in this module. Before we can present the My Favorite Books Prezi, we're going to need to make sure it has a good title and description, and also make sure it's in a place where we can find it on presentation day. Let's also say we're going to invite some people to edit our Prezi so they can double check it for errors. Let's start by adding this presentation to a folder. I'm going to create a new folder for Prezis about books. Once you're done creating a folder for your presentation, go ahead and add it to that folder. Now let's go ahead and add a brief but helpful description to our presentation. Now let's say I want to have this presentation proofread by someone I know. Let's add that person as a Prezi editor. That way they can access and edit the Prezi at any time. Remember, all you have to do is click Share and then type their email into the Share menu. Double check to make sure they have editing rights if you want them to be able to make changes to your presentation. Finally, let's say I want to make this presentation into a handout. What could I do? In this case, I'm going to download it as a PDF and then print it off. So let's go to Share, Download as PDF. I'm going to quickly give it a once-over to make sure all of the frames are included in this handout. Aside from a few finishing touches, this presentation is, for the most part, ready to go. This concludes Section 4. In this section, we applied what we learned in this module. Next, we'll be taking a look at various ways you can use to present your finalized presentation. Hello, and welcome back to Mastering Prezi. This is Module 7, Section 1, Presenting Online. In this section, we're going to take a look at presenting your Prezi over the internet. Typically, when you give your presentation, you're able to be there in person. However, what if you need to present to someone who's, say, halfway across the world? Is there a way you could give them a presentation without having to travel all the way to them? Prezi has a really awesome feature which allows you to present over the internet. In order to present over the internet, simply click the Present Remotely button on the View screen. The first thing that you're going to have to do is to copy the link to your Prezi. Then you can send it to someone via email, instant message, etc. Basically anything that supports a web browser. Once you've distributed the link, you're ready to begin the remote presentation. Anybody who's invited to this presentation does not need a Prezi account. But keep in mind that this link expires 10 minutes after you close the presentation, and only up to 30 people can follow your presentation. Once your remote Prezi has loaded, it'll look basically identical to the standard presentation mode. It acts basically the same. The only difference is it broadcasts your view to all of your viewers, so that way they can follow the presentation in real time. This could be used in tandem with a program such as Skype, would then allow you to present as if you're there in person. The view following isn't even limited to just your path points. You can even zoom in and navigate like you would in edit mode, and it would still follow your movements. This concludes Section 1. In this section, we went over how to present over the internet. Next, we'll be taking a look at ways you can present your Prezi offline. Hello, and welcome back to Mastering Prezi. This is Module 7, Section 2, Presenting Offline. In this section, we're going to take a look at presenting your Prezi when there isn't an active internet connection available. Let's say you're presenting to someone in a place where the internet isn't very good, but you still have a computer to present on. What could you do? Prezi has a feature that allows you to download your entire presentation as a portable application. When you're on the View page, just click the Download button. It'll give you two options. You can download it for just presenting or editing and presenting. However, keep in mind that the version that you can edit requires the Prezi application, which is bundled in with the paid plans. Of course, any YouTube videos that you've embedded into your presentation will need an internet connection to play. All the contents of your Prezi will be packaged into 2 folders and a standalone application, which you can take anywhere. When you launch the standalone application, it'll look basically like presentation mode on Prezi.com. It controls exactly the same and has all the same content as the Prezi on Prezi.com. So all you would have to do, if you're headed to an area that doesn't have a very stable internet connection, you could download the standalone application to, say, a USB flash drive, and then load it from there. This concludes section 2. In this section, we went over how to present without an internet connection. Next, we'll be taking a look at presenting through mobile devices. Hello, and welcome back to Mastering Prezi. This is Module 7, Section 3, Presenting via Mobile. In this section, we'll be going over how to present your Prezi via a mobile device. For this demonstration, we're going to use an Apple iPad. To begin, open up the App Store. Go ahead and search for Prezi for iPad and install it onto your device. Once you've found it in the App Store, go ahead and click Free and then Install. It may ask you for your Apple ID password, so just go ahead and enter it in. Once the Prezi app is installed, tap on it to open it up. After it loads, it will ask you for your Prezi.com login. Go ahead and enter in the details. Once you open up the application, it will greet you with a welcome dialog. Feel free to scroll through these to see the different features of Prezi for iPad. Prezis you create on the iPad can be stored on the local system memory. When you hit New Prezi, you are able to enter in the title, description, and privacy setting of your Prezi. This will affect the Prezi that you will upload to Prezi.com. Go ahead and press Create, and it will generate a blank Prezi for you. This is the Prezi iPad editor. In this editor, you're able to add text, as well as add in photos. You can choose to take photos or upload one from your local photo library. You can navigate the Prezi by pinching to zoom in and out and twisting with your pinched fingers to rotate the Prezi. You can also reorder images and elements of your Prezi, as well as move it around by dragging it with your finger. You can resize an object, as well as rotate it using the buttons in the lower left and right corners. Once you're done creating it, you can present your Prezi. Note that Prezis made on iPads will not have paths, as the Prezi iPad editor does not have path support. Once you're done, hit the home icon and save your changes. It will upload the Prezi from your iPad to Prezi.com and automatically sync it with your account. Now that you've created a Prezi on your iPad, you'll notice that there are a few main options. You can share your Prezi with the ability to send an edit link. You can also edit the Prezi settings. Let's swap over to the On Prezi.com tab. You'll notice that your iPad Prezi will also be present, but Prezis you have created on the Prezi.com will also be there. If you tap on one of these, it will download it to your iPad to view. Notice that since these Prezis have paths enabled, you can view them in the presentation mode. Let's go to the Featured Prezis tab. The Featured Prezis tab are Prezis featured by the Prezi.com staff. You can view these like you would view any other Prezi. If you have an active internet connection, you can load YouTube videos that are embedded in the Prezi. The Featured Prezis tab is a great way to gather new ideas for your Prezis. The Prezi application for iPod and iPhone is very similar. It has the same loading sequence and requires you to log in. However, note that there is only one tab in this application, Prezis from your Prezi.com account. You can still view your Prezis, however you cannot edit or create any new Prezis. You can view your Prezi in the exact same way you can on your iPad. Pinch to zoom, slide to rotate, and pinch rotate. Double tap to get an overview of your Prezi. If you pull down the list of your Prezis, it will automatically refresh and sync your list with Prezi.com. This concludes section 3. In this section, we learned how to present your Prezi's mobile device. Next, we'll be taking a look at application of presentation. Hello, and welcome back to Mastering Prezi. This is Module 7, Section 4, Application of Presentation. In this video, we're going to be applying what we've learned in this module. Before we present our Prezi, let's run through all the different scenarios we might encounter. What if you're presenting to a group of people who can't be in the same place at the same time? For example, you're in an international business. People are spread across the globe and can't get into the same spot at the same time due to crazy schedules. But you still need to give them this presentation. What's the best way to do in this situation? Let's try presenting remotely. I'm going to go to the View page of the My Favorite Books Prezi and click Present Remotely. After I'm done sending this link to everyone, I'll click the Start Remote Presentation button. And there you have it. I would pretty much present like I normally would. However, what if I'm headed into an area where the Wi-Fi is spotty? I wouldn't want the connection to drop on me before I can give my presentation. So what I'm going to do in advance is download this presentation as a standalone application. I'm going to click Share and then Download as Portable Prezi. Once I've loaded this standalone application onto the flash drive, I'm good to go. If the internet goes down, I've still got the flash drive. And once again, I can present like normal. Of course, this YouTube video won't work if the Wi-Fi goes out, but you can always solve that by downloading it as a video file and embedding that instead. Finally, let's say I'm meeting with someone at a cafe. I don't have a computer that I could use. What should I do then? In this case, it would be best to use the Prezi mobile app. As you can see, with Prezi you can present almost anywhere. Congratulations! You have successfully completed the Mastering Prezi course. Feel free to review any of the past sections, but otherwise you should have all the skills you need to create a full presentation with Prezi.